And well, Vigilante Williamson here on the 70th episode of the Culture Crime Fighters. I'm joined by none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, my partner in Culture Crime Fighting, Matt from Foulball Productions. How you doing, man?
Hello, how's it going? This is the Culture Crime Fighters. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got a wonderful show in store for you today. It's going to be something. It's going to be something special, I can tell you that.
It is. It is. It's always
Indeed.
special. Always special.
Indeed. Always special. And you know what makes it special? You, the viewer.
You, the viewer. Yep.
That's what
you
makes
people.
it special.
You people make
Thank
it special.
You. Thank you. How you been, my friend?
I've been all right. How about yourself?
I've been okay. I'm switching jobs.
Oh, okay.
I'm starting my new job this week. Yeah, I just kind of the other job ran its course. You know what I mean? It was good for a while. A lot of the money dried up, and then just the environment itself is just not. I don't know. It ran its course. So I'm starting a new job, which I'm pretty excited about. I don't know. You know, there's always questions when you're starting a new job. You don't always know, but I'm really excited about it. Like, the people are really cool, and the place is so goddamn cool. I wish I could talk about it on air because it's like, it's just so sick. But if I give you any details, like the quickest Google search will give it away. And I try to keep my work and YouTube life separate.
Yeah.
You know, just because there's some pretty hot takes that we throw out here every once in a while, and I just don't want the complications. I don't want somebody to be like, "Did you hear what he said? Oh, this is where he works. Like, let's go."
It's ruined his real life because he said something I'm like, yeah, I get it.
Which people do, and it's, you know, and it's also like they don't. There's no reason to include them in anything that I'm doing. My shenanigans on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, but
yeah. Well, congrats then. Congrats, man. Good luck. It's funny. I've been thinking about switching jobs, but I don't want to because I switched so many times. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't want to just keep doing that. It's
yeah.
Weird. It's weird.
That was a hesitation I had too,
Yeah.
but when I started looking, I got so many offers, so many really good offers. One that was like in management, one that was at this really cool place I wanted to work that would probably be super lucrative, but I kind of had to work-life balance concerns, you know? I was like, this will probably be great. I'll probably make a lot of money, but I'm going to be burnt out if I take this job. And I'm like, I don't respond well to that. I tend to go to substances under that kind of situation, you know?
Yeah, me too. And that, man, that's his own conversation, right? We've already had that conversation, haven't we? Craziness of work.
And especially in the service industry, when you're working so closely with alcohol, and it's so common to go out after work, and a lot of times you get some kind of drinks for free, or when you go to bars, people hook you up. So you're like, oh, I'm not even spending money. You know, it's like so easy to justify it, and it becomes this spiral that is so hard to get out of. You know,
so yeah, that's never good.
Yeah, I don't think this is the best choice. I mean, the new place I'm working at, it's still in the. You know, it's still in service. There's still liquor around, but it's just a different vibe. It's just not the same energy. So hopefully I'll be a resounding success, and that'll springboard my stupendous YouTube career.
Good luck. That's the thinking. That's the positive thinking that we need.
Positive yes. Gotta think positively.
Yeah.
Eye on the prize, you know. Can't have negative thoughts. No negative thoughts. Damp those down.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I was on Steph My Nerdy Homes Saturday night stream last night.
Cool. Congrats on that too.
Yeah, she just shot me a invitation. Excuse me.
Just slid in the DMs.
Yeah, she just shot me an invitation. And I was like, all right, yeah, fuck it. I got nothing going on. So I did her show. And I fucking successfully somehow currently at this point in history, I am at 1,770 subs, my highest mark ever.
Congrats! We're gonna get you to 1,802 grand before you know
Let's
it.
hope so. I've been holding under that number since Gary came on. That was my last big push. Well, maybe not since Gary. Maybe not Gary, but it was maybe like a Lord of the Rings video. But seriously, I've just been under that ceiling for like a year, and it just won't move. And I barely even look at my numbers anymore because I'm like, oh, I know what it's going to be.
Yeah,
And
I'm in a similar boat.
For the first time
congrats.
ever, pushed up through into the next 10, which is like, oh my God, thank God.
Hey, congrats. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully you get to 1,800, $2,000 before you know it. Just keep pushing, keep grinding.
Dude,
grind.
There's some YouTubers that are grinding and finding success. Like Culture Casino, he's doing well, dude. You paid attention to him recently?
No, I haven't checked on him in a minute.
I mean, I popped in. He's got 4,000 subs right now.
Cool.
And he's live right now, and he's got 176 live viewers.
Oh wow!
That's cool. He's doing really well.
Yeah, good. Congrats,
good for Mr. CC.
Good to see people growing.
Yeah, it's inspiring. You know, you're like, oh, okay, it can be done. It's just me. I suck.
Oh, you don't suck. I know with me, I'm still mentally on hiatus. I realize that. It's like, I'm trying to come back. I'm not all the way back. I realize that. I'm slowly getting there, but it's just like I don't have that same vigor, energy, whatever. I said vigor, you bigots. But I don't have that same energy.
I was gonna jump on it. I was gonna say something. I let it go.
Yeah, no, but I just don't have that same gusto, whatever. To I still want to have a successful YouTube channel on all that. But it's just not the same energy right now. There's a couple other things I'm trying to do, and hopefully it'll all come together.
What about more game streaming? You seem to be very good at that. You seem to enjoy it. I mean, I don't know much about the game streaming hustle, but people like your game streams. I like your game streams.
I do like doing them. I don't know much about the hustle either. I just do them randomly. I do, they are fun. So I do want to keep doing them, but I still want to make more. In my head, you still need content that's like shorter. So I want to make stuff more for Instagram, more for TikTok, and for YouTube and clips. And I just haven't had the effort,
the drive,
to be putting forth the effort in editing. Editing this show, I want to do this show, a weekly stream. And if I can get a video outside of that up, and then try to do clips from this show and the weekly stream for YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok.
Yeah. I'd like to have some more guests. I mean, last week's show was really good. I think it challenged me as a broadcaster. You know what I mean? Like,
stunning and brave challenges.
But genuinely, because it was every other person that we stream with, for the most part, we're pretty much on the same page about with at least the cultural conversation. Not everything. We've had arguments and disagreements and stuff like that. But for the most part, everyone who comes on shares our at least some version of our view on the media. This guy didn't.
One of us.
Google gobble. But because of that, it was a different type of show, and it was a different energy. But it was still, I think it was still really cordial, and I think we still had a lot of fun with it. So I enjoyed the challenge. I enjoyed having to kind of reframe things I was saying, sort of tone down my energy to kind of match the vibe.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
Yeah, I did too. I think the people did too. I mean, there was some pushback. There were some people, oh my goodness, say representation one more time and this, that, and third. But actually, I think it went well. And I thought it was interesting to just get other people's perspective. And like you said, we do just talk to same people who think the same thing, but same type of thing. It's the same sphere, so to speak. So to get someone outside that sphere completely, get their perspective, and have a civil conversation about it, I think was really cool and stuff I want to do more of.
I agree. And I think from our perspective, like, it's a weaker argument if we're just hanging around agreeing with each other. It's like if you bring in someone and then someone who was reasonable, like,
absolutely,
after reflection, I feel like I feel like that guy's probably like the type of person who's activist first. You know what I mean? Like, the cause is the most important thing, not necessarily like entertainment. So, he was coming from that perspective, but there were certain things that were just kind of like, that's not a slam dunk, argument. I can't just be like, I can't, like, when we pull up these articles and you just roll your eyes and mock how ridiculous their takes are. His take wasn't that ridiculous.
Yeah. I think ultimately the real issue, or one of the many issues with representation, is that it's not done like that. So it's done where they try to make these characters fit multitude of check boxes, and then it's never going to end. Like, okay, once you get a black such and such, you get a gay such and such, and you get a good woman such and such, and it just keeps going on and infinitum, and waters down all the characters, and it just nothing matters anymore because you're just making stuff just for the purposes of representation and not for the purpose of entertainment. So that's really where the issue is. But
I think we know more than anything, the most important part is not about the representation. It's about the agenda behind the representation. Because it was just representation, it'd be fine to have Candace Owens. It'd be fine to have Eric July. It'd be fine to have people that have a different point of view but also have a different skin tone. It's not about that at the end of the day, because it's like when they do bring in these characters, so rarely is it just he's just a dude. It's like he's a dude and he's been dealing with oppression, and or she's the first woman, and it's always framed in that. So you're like, oh, shut up. It's not really about representation. That's just the shield they use to mask the agenda.
Yeah, that's another thing. And we could probably pull up another or come up with another 4 or 5 different core issues with the whole representation argument. But to counter that, there is something to be said about seeing, in being in the sphere, in having this discussion time and time again, but with people who think like that. I think we can forget there is a genuine, I don't know if innocence is the right word, but genuine, just, it's nothing wrong with people wanting to see themselves in entertainment. And I think it's easy because so many people are coming with agenda and so many people are coming with kind of bad faith and nefarious arguments to forget there is a core, like, regardless, maybe Chief is an activist first person. I don't know. Let's say Chief because that's what it said. Gabe Davis, obviously. But there is something innocent there, just like, oh, I just want to see someone who looks like me on TV or on some entertainment. And I think we can forget that because we are always talking about what's so wrong with the representation argument as it's been presented in modern entertainment.
And I also liked it, because it was someone we disagreed with and he was reasonable. It really forced me to think about exactly what it is that I do have a problem with. Like I was talking to my mom about the trans thing and all the kids becoming trans and this, that, and the other, because she's a teacher. And at one point I kind of realized, I was like, wait a minute, why am I upset about this? You know what I mean? It was like I'm so used to just being on the same page with people that when you talk to people that you disagree with, it does sort of force you to go an extra level in your thinking and sort of understand your own core principles better.
Yeah, you got to clarify why you think what you think.
Even to yourself.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I'd be very open to having another kind of constructive conversation like that about any topics. Like obviously, I brought him on because he was reasonable. It wasn't he wasn't just sounding off. Like I wouldn't have invited his girlfriend or whatever whoever that girl was, because it wouldn't have been as constructive. It would have eventually been a lecture. This was a really healthy back and forth. And I thought that was, constructive, and I would definitely be down to have a similar conversation with, whomever about whatever.
Yeah. So, hey, you out there, we're looking for reasonable leftists to have discussions with.
Or even just people with a different point of view, know. It's I think a lot of these people too, I don't really think they realize that they're leftists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that, you know what I mean? I don't think they realize that they've subscribed to an ideology so completely.
No, of course not, because I don't think most of them realize how deep the rabbit hole really goes. Because the way a lot of leftist works is you get more honey with sugar, or is that what it is? Or get more bees with honey, that's what I'm trying to say. And so they just go with whatever they connect to. They're like, oh, this sounds good. You want racial representation or whatever the hell. It sounds good. You don't realize there's a nefarious whole thing that comes with that.
They buy the sales pitch, basically.
Yeah, they buy the sales pitch, and that's all. It's almost a surface level understanding of what they're really signing up for.
Totally. Like I was talking to you about a few weeks ago, how I had that discussion, that very reasonable discussion with that girl from work. And, I was talking about her ideology and I was saying how it comes back to Marxism, and she scoffed. And I was like, I can explain it to you exactly how it is. And then like walked through it exactly how it comes to that. And, you can't read someone's thoughts, but the impression I was getting from the look on her face was she was kind of like, oh, fuck, he's right. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think she realized exactly what ideology she has been subscribing to mentally. We see it for what it is, or some of us do. I mean, like I said, I've done the research, but a lot of people, I think they don't actually necessarily know what's attached to all of the beliefs they think that they have.
Yeah, I agree. Because again, like I said, it's just that sales pitch. It just sounds good, and once you buy into that, you don't realize, you don't read the fine print basically on the social contract you're signing.
Well put.
So yeah,
that's well put.
Yeah, that was a cool discussion. I think people liked it. People seem to gravitate towards it. I don't know if it's a new thumbnail style. I don't know what it is, but I mean, we got decent views for what we do, at least on this channel. So I was happy for it.
Yeah, no, me too. I kept checking in to see how it was doing. And it's like one of the higher viewed episodes of late of this sort of relaunched version. And so, I'm content with that. I'm trying to genuinely be grateful. And you know what I thought about, like our little corner of YouTube, which I was like, that's actually super fucking cool if you think about it. So I was, we're always in this struggle, right, to grow and get new subs and get new viewers all the time, right? Like that's the game, because it's not really sustainable if you're not growing. But then I thought about how cool it is that we have returning viewers, when there's no other reason for anyone to show up except for us.
Because we're so amazing. No, yeah, it is awesome.
But what I mean by that is more like if it's Gary, which obviously Gary has extremely loyal fans, and a lot of people have extremely loyal fans. Tim Dillon, so on. A lot of these creators do. But there's also something, because it's been seen by 400,000 people or whatever, that there's more. There's a relevance to it in like sort of the grander conversation. Meaning, like what this voice says on this topic or about this certain thing. It's worth checking in just simply because it's prominent. Like, we don't have that, but we do have returning viewers coming back all the time. So it's like, wow, like that's a real, genuine, deep, like badass sense of like loyalty or enjoyment for what we're doing. I was kind of floored when I thought of it like that.
Yeah, I mean, we have people that do care about how we chime in on certain things or what the hell we have to offer, which is very, very cool. Something we shouldn't take for granted. And something else I thought about while you're talking about content creation, I thought about us when we very first started, especially started first connecting and used to go on Jake D's show and stuff like that. One thing I realized is we weren't so black-pilled on entertainment. And what I mean is part of the core element of it is we still were watching shows and movies and things regularly because we would talk about it. That was the core thing. So rather it was Expanse with you, which even though it wasn't the best season that season, or it was a Mandalorian or something else, we would talk about it every week. And that was like a part of it. We were still learning the game, learning not just the game as YouTube, but learning the game as far as what the fuck all was going on, because we were still, dazed and confused. But part of it was just we had a genuine, which is why it's so cool to hear you earlier. You were talking about stuff that you were, digging and stuff. It's like we had a genuine love for this stuff, and I kind of waned with becoming critics and becoming like social critics or whatever the hell you call us. And it's like that. I think that's I don't want to say missing, but it's like I do miss that personally. I miss that innocence of enjoying content and just looking for entertainment as a positive. Says like, okay, this is negative, this sucks, this is woke, this person has an agenda, this whatever it is, cultural Marxism. I mean that was a part of it, but the core was we like entertainment. This is cool, this isn't. And I kind of I don't want to say get back to that, but definitely make it a component of stuff that I do going forward and when we do, when we can.
I appreciate that, and you're right. You know, I think the Expanse collapsing was a big deal for me because it was the last one that I really believed in. You know, and I remember distinctly I was visiting Austin when it first crossed that threshold, and I remember I was in the Airbnb that I was staying in, and I was watching it on like a shitty tablet. I remember being like, no, and like got up out of the bed that I was watching it in, like, no. And then we did the stream from the living room that I was staying in, and they didn't see it yet. And I was like, I'm telling you, it's there. They've changed. It's deviated. And then it just got worse and worse each week. And that did a number on me, you know, because I believed in that show. That show was one that was completely, in my estimation, was detached from all that, was above it. And when they played into it, I was like crestfallen. You know, I was like, shit, it really is all dead because now there's nothing left. And you see, you know, show after show, it's like they're not even bad because they're woke. They're just bad and they're woke.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, God. Like, it is a tough, as much as we've changed, like we are in a real weird cultural moment right now. A lot of stuff is going on and a lot of stuff has changed, you know, like, so it is on us to be probably like at least more open-minded to certain things, or, you know, maybe shift the focus to things we do like. So it isn't just always prattling on about, but you know, in our defense, it is like, it's an absolute desert of content. You know, with like the one little oasis, like every few, you know, miles.
Every few months at best. But I guess one thing, and granted, it does focus on old shows, but I think the success, shout out to Nick Weiser, who came up around the same time that Toxic Tuesday, is that you get that, you know, if you're a Toxic Tuesday fan, one day a week, you're going to hear something positive about a good movie that you used to, you know, like, or maybe you didn't see it, and you're like, oh, maybe I should check it out for Toxic Tuesday. So I think that's also in that same vein of looking for positivity. But you know, you're right. There is a desert of good content, desert of good writing. That was kind of something that came on people last week. I think a lot of these issues, if there was good writing, wouldn't even be so apparent.
Yeah, it'd almost be forgivable. You could like roll your eyes through it. Like, you know, like obviously we had our take on Arcane, but you know, ultimately people liked it, you know, like even though I think foundationally it's broken for like just you know, just I don't want to watch a 12-year-old girl beat up full-grown men. I think it's ridiculous. I don't care if she can punch in the video game. You're deluding yourself if you think that that's not a representation issue. But people liked it and people watched it and people, you know, enjoyed it. And so it's like, even though we're looking at it and being like, look at her haircut, look, you know, but was people still enjoyed it, even people in our sphere. So it really is more about the writing than even the representation stuff. Like even that can be forgiven under the right circumstances.
Yeah. And but I mean, I've also said that part of the representation is to be, you know, holier than thou and above criticism and above reproach of criticism. So it's like, oh wait, you can't criticize me. I'm either from this group or I represented this group, and therefore you're a bigot. So that's where it does kind of go hand in hand, because that is definitely part of the defense mechanism for Hollywood whenever they're criticized of the shitty products.
It's part of their playbook. I was talking about that with Steph just last night, and it's exactly. I mean, it's, you know, they're the She-Hulk creator. Like people were teasing the CGI, and they're like, "Oh, it's because they're sexist." It's like,
what?
What are you talking about?
Like there's a technical problem with your product. This has nothing to do with even the, you know, anything. This doesn't have to do with the writing. There's a technical issue with your CGI that anyone with eyes can see.
That level of mental gymnastics it's almost impressive.
It's impressive and frightening. Like how delusional, like what in the hell? How delusional do you have to be?
Your brain can work that hard to avoid the truth that you will come up with that conclusion. It's like, wow. I mean, like, that is amazing. Like, that is really impressive.
Yeah. Like accountability, you know, allergic to accountability. But that's a scary thing that's kind of been a normal defense mechanism for so many people for so long. It's like, man, you can't, how the hell do you accept accountability if even shitty CG, again, an objective technical issue, somehow is construed into bigotry or sexism or whatever. You'll never hear any criticism there. You'll never be able to understand or improve with anything if that's how your mind works.
Yeah, I'm perfect no matter what.
Yeah, basically. That's basically it.
But, I did have two little stories that just more like facts than anything that support exactly what we were talking about, that people will go when the writing's good. So Chris Pratt's show, The Terminal List, it shoots up the ratings chart with 1.6 billion minutes of streams.
Wow.
It's I guess it's
pretty impressive. That's Amazon, right?
Uh-huh. It says the new Yellowstone. So it's let's look at that. Look at the difference. Look how bullshit. 40 out of 10 by critics on Rotten Tomatoes and 94 out of 100 from the viewers.
Wow. I mean, the critics versus the viewers or audience has been a thing for a while. But just here again, these critics don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And they're all bought paid for shows.
And I never looked at the audience score. I used to scoff at the audience score, before all this stuff came. I would just be like, oh, who cares what these people think? You know what I mean?
These peons, they don't know true art.
I want to know from the people who constantly consume this and pour over it and see things from a critical lens, what they think, And then it was you just start seeing, it was really, I think, around the Star Wars time when all these Star Wars movies are getting incredible ratings. And I'm like, what? That was hot garbage. How can you even? Where's your integrity? And then you realize they didn't actually, or at least if they had some, they sold it. And now it's I could give a shit less what any movie critic says about anything. I don't even care if they agree with me. I still don't care what you think.
Well, it depends what you mean by movie critic. If you mean Critical Drinker's a movie critic, obviously. Mahler.
That's a good point.
Even more mainstream Jeremy Jahns and Chris Stuckman, those type of guys. They're all, to me, the new age critics, and they kind of have replaced the print. No one cares what fucking Variety thinks on a movie anymore. You know what I mean? Or any of the Hollywood Mags, Hollywood Reporter, what their critics think. No one cares.
No,
who could possibly give a fuck?
I mean, there's a really strong possibility they're flat out lying to you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I I guess got Pam. But anyway, so that was big. And then also the other one that was pretty big, supporting what we're saying. Again, we're right always, guys. Top Gun Maverick has overtaken Titanic to be the 7th highest grossing film of all time.
Wow. That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
I know you got to adjust for inflation and all this other shit, but even still, Titanic had such mind-boggling numbers that I can't even believe that's true. That's crazy to me.
Do you remember Titanic was a phenomenon when it was going on? It's all anyone was talking about it. People were going to see it 2-3 times. I remember I saw it and I liked it. I thought I was going to hate it because all the girls liked it. I was like, oh, this is going to suck. They're just swooning over Leo.
And shit, that was the first movie that I remember getting over $1 billion. I know I was a kid, but that was the first one to do it. And it was whoa, did you believe this? It's $1 billion $90s where, money still had a little bit of value. And so it's whoa, this is crazy. This is a phenomenon. And Top Gun Maverick of all movies is past that.
And it was the highest grossing for kind of a while, right?
Yeah, it was until Avatar knocked it off, and then the Marvel movies, I'm assuming, and maybe a Harry Potter movie or two has kind of snuck in between afterwards. But yeah, for a good 12 years, it was the highest grossing movie of all time.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that Top Gun could do this. It's wow. I did not expect that to happen, right? That is.
Yeah. Me neither.
And it just seemed to be kind of universally loved.
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't see it. I don't know if you saw it. I wanted to see it, but then the universal praise kind of knocked me off. I'm oh, yeah, of course. Everyone likes it, so I'm not going to like it. But I'll probably check it out eventually. But there also seems to be it looks like they respected the lore. I know that's a white supremacist bigot argument or whatever, but it actually worked. You know what I mean? I know that may be mind-blowing to a lot of media professionals and people in Hollywood, but if you actually respect the property you're making, people might actually watch it.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think people will go to good writing. They will go to a good product. A good movie will sell. In the midst of all this, I didn't see it, but in the midst of
Yeah,
all this, terrible Marvel content, that most recent Spider-Man movie is like one of the highest grossing films of all time for that reason.
yeah, it
Because
is.
it didn't suck.
Yep, didn't suck. Even though it did take on older properties, like having the old Spider Men in it, it respected them, and people were happy. People were happy to see it, and happy to see it multiple times. That's something that also is like that kind of always pushed, especially the Marvel movies, is that people would see it more than one time. So like you do. I don't know why this seems to be rocket science, but you do have to make stuff that people like and that people get excited for and people enjoy. I know that's not always an easy thing to do, but you do have to at least aim for it. And I guess the past 5, 7 years has been so much antagonistic energy from Hollywood towards the fans with anything they create that these things seem so fucking novel.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you take like my snobbery, right, that we were
Mm-hmm.
just exploring, magnify that by 1,000, and then you have
Yeah,
some idea where a studio executive views the audience.
you peons, you
And look,
crumbs.
they're not actually all that bright. Like
Mm-hmm.
I met a lot of industry people they could have worked for General Mills.
Yeah.
They weren't like particularly insightful or particularly
Mm-hmm.
gifted. They just somehow got into that industry, and it's like they're making cars. It's not this like magic. It's an
Yeah.
industry. There's an assembly line to it. At some level. So, people get promoted who probably shouldn't be there, or people make stupid, grand decisions that change all the content for the next however many years. It's an industry filled of people, and it just happens to
Mm-hmm.
be a lot of, just a very, very closed off universe of people.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they closed off. I think they've totally lost the pulse of the people. Like they totally lost
I'll
for the
say.
most part, but apparently not everyone because like you just said about Top Gun. Even though Top Gun, to be fair, was a movie that had kind of stayed on ice for a while, so it really wasn't made during the everything has to be woke era of 2019, 2020, and onward.
But also, we can only speculate on this, but the fact that Tom Cruise opens the movie with a thank you to the audience, to me indicates that, I mean, he's never done that before. No movie's ever done that before. To me,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
indicates that he's aware of
Hmm.
the lack of respect that the audience has been shown over the past however many years.
That is true. You're right. Yeah, that is very rare. That's like I've never heard of that. As you mentioned it, and I do know that it has that. So yeah, he at least was recognizing like, okay, we pissed these people off. We need to try to actually be business. This like you just said, this is an industry. This is a business. Well, part of business is making sure your customer's happy, making sure your client is happy, and we are their client, whether they want us to be or not. No matter what they think of us, if we don't watch their shit, there's no money generating. You know what I mean? And people get fired
Yeah. And
at
could you
worst.
imagine owning a restaurant and then like half the people that come in you insult?
Yeah,
How long
that's
is that restaurant
insane.
going to stay open?
Not that long. That's insane. Actually, now that you mentioned, I'm thinking about that one lesbian restaurant. I want to say it was in Portland. You hear about
It's
that?
I don't know.
It was a
Is
lesbian. It was a lesbian club that got fired. And I got fired. They got closed down because it wasn't woke enough for the Portland lesbians. Just
that
so great.
rules. Eat your
Yeah,
own. Please eat your own.
absolutely.
Yeah, you're going to see those girls on Jordan Peterson in a few months.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Respect the
So I
audience. And we
know.
respect you. Thank you for watching. We know you're halfway in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for continuing to watch. Please like, share, all that good stuff.
Yes, absolutely. We're very grateful for you. I know we were talking. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about Warner Brothers,
Yeah, a little bit.
and
Yeah.
to kick that off, I just saw this. I don't know when this news broke, but apparently, Lady Gaga confirmed she will be starring in Joker 2 as Harley Quinn.
Ooh. This Joker 2 sounds like a disaster, man. I don't know. I heard rumors it might be a musical.
I heard that
It
too.
shouldn't even exist. the strength of this movie, even though I didn't like it as much as everyone else did, is the ambiguity. There you go. Ambiguity of maybe certain elements of it. And this, takes that away. I just don't think this is going to be a good movie. I think this is going to ruin the first one.
I mean, it can't ruin the first one.
It can't, but
the first one exists.
Yeah. But if you know certain things are happening, or if it reframes elements of the first one or how events played out, it can affect the perception a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at Star Wars, right?
Yep.
I mean, the entire thing is tainted forever. But you can't take A New Hope from me.
Yeah.
You can't take Empire. If you let that happen, that's on you.
That's true. I agree with that.
You know what I mean? It's like
either way.
I mean, yeah, I guess it is tough. But it's like, I'm still going to watch Terminator 2. I don't care that they killed off John Connor and that whatever that other one was.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? It's like, that means nothing to me. But I don't know. To me, it's curious. I don't have any really strong feelings on Lady Gaga.
Mm-hmm.
She's not someone that like draws my ire. I don't know. I think she's full of shit a little bit. Like, I saw her speak. I saw her speak at some event, and I was like, "This is so hollow and empty." Like, what she's saying, it means nothing. It was just so, bleh. Like, I was just grossed out by how insincere it was. But she's like a star. Like, she's not. I don't know when we started asking for these people's insight on world issues, but it's there's no need. We don't need to hear from them.
I just thought about Dave Chappelle talking about when 9/11 happened and speaking of Ja Rule, like that. Puts me in mind the same thing. Like, yes, this is exactly what we need. We need insight from Ja Rule after the towers got knocked down. It's the same feeling of us. Let's ask celebrities what they think of these important world issues. It's like, it's such a stupid thing.
And now with the hot top story, we go to Ja Rule. It's murder. 9/11 was murder.
Oh, geez. Please don't cancel us.
What? It was murder.
Well, it was, but still.
What's wrong with that? It was murder. Just Ja Rule on the news. It's murder. They murdered the towers. Thank you, Ja Rule, for that blistering insight. Now we go to Dame Dash with finance.
I like how you made Ja Rule like fucking Ollie from Family Guy. The weather guy, where he just said, it's raining.
It's hot outside.
Yeah, some shit like that. But no, I don't know when we start asking celebrities for their insight. But I guess this still feels like a disaster. Go back to Joker 2. I just don't think. I get when a movie makes $1 billion+ and one of the most profitable movies because of how low the budget is. It's almost inevitable that there's a sequel. It's just like, well, I don't know. I just feel like part of it is because I didn't like the first one as much. And it's like, how does this lore exist in a world where Batman is supposed to exist? How's the age supposed to work where he's like in his 40s, but Bruce Wayne is 8. So when is he going to become Batman? How is he actually the Joker, or is he not the Joker? But if she's Harley Quinn, then he has to be the Joker, right? So how the hell is that going to work? Is Batman going to play in his role, or is it just more madness from this guy? And it also, another thing is, he's already now the Joker. He's already crazy. He's already in his place where the whole joy of the first film was seeing him go down that path, seeing him go from a guy, living with his mom, taking care of his mom, to like this murderous psychopath avatar for insanity for Gotham, where he's like now a legend to the people of Gotham because he represented the anarchy and the frustration that they felt. But now he's already there. So that journey, which was the first movie, is now already completed. So what next? So I guess those are my questions and thoughts.
Ja Rule, what do you think about the Joker? He murdered.
Wasn't expecting.
Thank you, Ja Rule.
I should have, but I wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the only thing about the DCEU that bothers me is all the fractured universes. Like, have one.
Yes, please.
And why can't the movies build into each other? It's like the Suicide Squad, the Batman, the Justice League, and the Joker all exist in their own universes. What the fuck? What's going on?
It makes no sense.
There's so many fractured, like, I can't figure out, like, it's, which one is it? They're just like, whatever we want. It's like, it works when there's comic book runs. It doesn't work when there's only, like, when you have comic book runs, right? You have, like, that series is going out. So you can follow that series if you want. When it's like, you're just putting out movies and there's only, like, a few of them and they're not in a series. It's very, very confusing. Like, just stop and start fresh.
Yeah, I don't know how they expect normal viewers and normies to understand and comprehend. But it's funny what you mentioned, stop and start fresh, to go back to the grander Warner Brothers issues or direction, whatever the hell. I think that's what they want to do, is stop and start fresh, because they feel like they got a window before the MCU officially reboots. And the MCU is not looking too good. Phase 4 is kind of phase bore. Phase 5 is looking barely alive. And it's like, hey, now's the time to strike. Now's the time to come with a whole new DCEU or whatever the hell. And I don't know if that's what they're going to do, because they have so many movies in production. But like you said, there are so many fucking universes. And like you said, Justice League is in its own universe, but is it both Wonder Woman and Aquaman in that universe? Is Black Adam in that universe? I thought he was.
I don't know. I wonder.
I thought Shazam was.
Aquaman 2 is coming out, and so is Shazam 2. So which universe are they existing in versus the Batman versus Joker? Like, the idea that they could just do this with, like, no grand vision. It's just kind of like some kid with, like, ADD. Just like, I want to do that. I want to play Joker. Okay, now I want to play Justice League. No, not that Batman statue. I want to use this Batman statue. And it's just like, how is this a major motion picture studio? Like, it seems like they have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's, as a Warner Brothers fan, that's been like the entire existence of Warner Brothers. I could blame the fact that they have gone through so many ownership changes the past 5 or 7 years, because they went through AT&T and now they're Warner Discovery, and maybe some of this upheaval is for another ownership change that may or may not happen. But even before they started shifting owners, they used to be so fucking haphazard. Hell, if you remember, the Dark Knight series did not spin off into the DCEU properly, even though Dark Knight Rises came out a year before Man of Steel. And they could have figured a way to spin it off, but they didn't. So they've always kind of been this disorganized company.
Yeah, like, how did they not play the Dark Knight into those movies? Like, even if it's not Christian Bale and Nolan, how do you not springboard off that success and build into that universe? Like, that should be your foundation, right? And now we get in that same universe, make it feel Nolan-y, and then you have Superman and Gotham,
Metropolis.
Metropolis, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, why, how and why did that not happen? And you're like, okay. And then, like, the one that we did get, like, I never understood Zack Snyder. Never got. I remember I watched 300. I was like, oh, that was a joke. You know, like, that was a joke, right? And everyone's like, that was sick. I was like, it was?
Like 300.
Like, yeah. I mean, okay, but it's really stupid. Am I wrong? Am I totally off base? It was.
I mean,
it was like a carnival ride. It was like, that was fun, and then you get off of it and you don't, like, think back on it.
I mean, 300 is not supposed to be like, I can't even think. It's not supposed to be Citizen Kane. It's just supposed to be a bunch of fucking violent CG shit. I mean, that's really all it was. Really, it's all it advertised. It's all it delivered on. I mean, that was fine. Right. That was fine.
That's fine. How, though, then does his career continue? And then he's helmed with, like, one of the biggest franchise IPs.
That's a different question.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I mean, this guy is not a good filmmaker. Like, he's got some creative visual ideas, but, like, he's obviously I don't know if he's an idiot, but he's just not that good.
No.
I mean, did you see Army of the Dead? I mean,
I didn't. I remember your fucking review, and it was great.
The idea that movie got made is hilarious. It's like they dropped every ball you could have, and they didn't exploit anything fun. It's so bad even thinking about it now. And it's like, this is the guy who he's got Superman, he's got the Justice. It's like, does he? This fucking guy? Well, is there no one better? Is David Fincher busy? Like, I don't understand. Like, there's so many better directors in Hollywood than that clown. I just don't.
Man,
I
there
just
are
never
people
understand.
who love him too. Still, right now.
Yeah, they can all be wrong. It's fine.
I don't get it. Like I said, I got it for 300. I got it for 300 because it was in 2007. That's a context thing. Like if you weren't around in 2007 or 2006, whenever that was a mid 2000s ass movie that was fun to see in the mid 2000s, and I liked it. Watchmen, I am mixed on. I think there are some things they did excellently. It was kind of long. And that's an understatement. It's like 3.5 hours. Probably should have been split into 2 movies. I think there's some things they did excellently. I thought there were some things, some changes I didn't really like, but I can accept Watchmen.
I forgot that he did Watchmen. Actually, Watchmen was badass. I forgot that he did that because that is actually quite good.
Yeah.
So, okay, that actually does make a little bit more sense when you put it in that context, right? So he's already helmed a very good comic book movie. Maybe it does make sense to give him Superman. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it's only, a few years in between, and you know how these Hollywood decisions take a while. So that's probably what they were thinking. Okay, he did one movie that made money. He did 2 big movies that made money, so let's give him another one. And there you go.
He also did what was it? Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch, which
I never saw. I had no interest in seeing.
Looked horrible.
And Legend of Guardians: The Owls of Ga'Hoole.
I don't know what that is. I was this many days old when I found out it existed.
You might have. I mean, I remember when it came out, the marketing. I was like, owls, okay, but it's like an animated. It's a kids movie, really. But so I mean, those are the movies that he did leading into Man of Steel. So that was his most recent work before he did Man of Steel. And they're like, this is the guy.
Yeah, he's not.
People like Superman. This might not go down all that great,
bro. I mean, and I thought, and there's some people who love Man of Steel, and I mean, I thought Man of Steel was okay, but it wasn't Superman, and it's just like, it was more evidence that Hollywood just doesn't understand Superman at all, which is just don't get it at all.
Well, it's also just a bad movie, even if it's like tonally wrong. Like, it's stupid. Like, there's things that don't make any sense where it's like the whole movie, like Lois Lane is tracking him down, right? And the whole things she keeps hearing everywhere she goes is what a nice guy, how great of a guy he is, right? That's the thing. Remember? She's like, ooh, she swoons at it. Well, when him and Zod have a war that destroys Metropolis, I mean, clearly hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are either injured, in peril, need like medical assistance, and what does he do? He stops and kisses her, basically like on a battlefield. Could you imagine just like being like a soldier at Antietam and then just making out with a chick amongst all the dead bodies? And be like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? Get a bandage.
He does he at any point to try to help anyone that was obviously destroyed in one of these buildings?
The movie ends. Movie's just over. It's done.
Shit, not only that, another thing that bothered me is like him not helping his dad. I think
Zach forgot there were people in those fucking buildings.
Because like, Zack Snyder doesn't think that. It just cool stuff blow up. Zack Snyder makes you appreciate Michael Bay. That's what he does. He makes you appreciate.
Damn straight.
He's like, you think Michael Bay is all explosion and CG and bullshit in no story. Wait till you get to some Zack Snyder. Then you'll actually appreciate, like, oh no, there are levels to this shit, surely. But yeah, his dad, he just lets him die because he doesn't want to be found out. That was very heroic of you, Superman.
What was that?
I really appreciate that.
Don't. Why? People will figure out that you're an alien. I mean, there are other non-aliens that save people's lives, dude. Like,
yeah.
What kind of logic is that? And then also the fact that he's got to kill Zod. It's like there was no other option. You're Superman. You could have just stood in front of the laser blast. You could have,
which is what I thought he was going to do.
Or like, done super speed and gotten them. It was just so, I don't know.
Zack Snyder doesn't think things through.
No, and it's just it's corny. It's like teen boy, like, oh dude, like moment. You know what I mean? Like, oh, and then he's gonna have to kill him, and Superman's gonna. It's just like
broke his fucking neck, man. Awesome.
He's Superman, dude. He could do more.
Look at all the buildings blow up, bro. Zack Snyder's awesome, man.
Hey, why don't you just, like, you know, put him like in a guillotine and force his eyes into the mat or something? You know what I mean? Like, it just, there's nothing else, huh? All right.
Yeah, I mean, and shit, we can go on, but last thing, how does Zod? Because it took Superman like years to understand his powers, be able to use them. He struggled with them as a kid. He's not even able to fly really until he goes to Antarctica and gets his like costume because he had never flown before. Then he just jumped. But Zod just like knows every fucking power and mastered it immediately.
I hate when movies do that.
It's like, godly.
It's just like, well, how did that person? When did they train? Oh, they didn't.
Exactly.
Well, then that undermines your training sequence.
Yeah.
This is your movie, dude. You don't have to
just
release it. Yeah, you can be like, oh, that doesn't make sense, and go fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Explosions.
Yeah, and I mean, it just goes back to the whole thing. Is like, it's just so. I don't think I saw a single DC film in the theater since Batman 2, since The Dark Knight Rises.
Last Dark Knight Rises, so that'd been the one with Bane.
Or the second one, whatever the second one is. Who knows? I mean,
second one's Dark Knight. That's the one with Joker.
Yeah. That's the last one I saw in the theater.
Oh wow, the last one I saw in theaters, I want to say Wonder Woman.
I've never even seen Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, that's the impression I got.
Good.
I was like, okay, sounds
Could've
fine.
been worse.
Sounds dumb
Could've been
too,
better.
but I'm not all that into it. I don't know. I didn't really care. I never really cared about Wonder Woman. I'm not gonna pretend I do now.
Yeah, fucking women. No,
just, you know, it always seemed kind of like a joke character.
Really?
You know, like she looks ridiculous. She's got the whip, the lasso of justice or whatever. It's just like, it just seemed kind of like, oh, it's more cutesy. It's like a Betty Boop, you know, than Superman. It's just kind of like, oh, isn't that a cute little character that exists? It's not like take it seriously. It's Wonder Woman.
Well, I mean, it's funny you mentioned Betty Boop. Is a character from the 40s, so it is of that era of like. She used to get tied up in a lot of her early stories. I don't know what's going on there. There's something else there with Wonder Woman.
It's Wonder Woman. I was like, I'm not going to suddenly say I care about a Wonder Woman movie. And like, people like it. That's great. And people still do like it. And that's fine and good. I'm just saying, the reason I brought that up is because how little my interest is in any of these DC movies. Like, I knew the Bane movie was going to be bad. I knew it was going to be bad just because I was like, it felt bad. And it was like I knew that second one was good, but once you rewatch it and without Heath Ledger, it's like, oh, this actually is pretty dumb. Like, this isn't that good.
That dialogue, I can't do Nolan's dialogue. We've had the conversation about Nolan's dialogue. Ooh. It is something else, man. If Heath Ledger didn't ad-lib and make it into something, it's like
Stuff's coming.
Oh no, Batman has throat cancer. That's real. What a tragic twist that they threw that in there. What is something he's going to have to overcome pretty severely. Poor Batman with throat cancer. Oh, wait, you mean he intentionally walks around and puts that voice on when he's fighting crime? What? Does he have to think about that? Does he ever break? If he's like in the middle of a fight, does he ever just go back to Bruce Wayne like, oh shit, I got to growl more. I forgot. I'm Batman right now. Ugh.
That was the dumbest decision I could ever think. And I'm not blaming fucking Christian Bale. I'm blaming Nolan. Because you're the fucking director. It is your job to make sure he doesn't do that. Here's an idea. He's a fucking billionaire. You've given him all this crazy tech. Maybe a voice changer? I don't know.
I don't know what Jeff Bezos sounds like.
That's
I wouldn't be able to pick him out in a crowd. Be like, oh, that's definitely Jeff Bezos. I don't know what he sounds like. And there's a million other billionaires who are relatively anonymous that I wouldn't know, just by the sound of their voice. You know how many times I'd have to listen to someone to be able to pick out their voice distinctly? The idea that was part of his identity was that ever established in the comic books that he growled? Like, what is that?
Well, in the cartoon, Kevin Conroy does do a different voice for Batman, at least in the first couple seasons, than he does for Bruce Wayne. But he eventually actually drops that. But I mean, there is a little bit of a different voice, but it's not a growl. It certainly isn't like a guy just, oh, where's the trigger? Where's the trigger? It's just like, no, he just has a different voice. But yeah, that was swerving.
And you got fucking Commissioner Gordon. I gotta get me one of those.
Oh boy, that's how. Like, what member of the WB corporate writing staff put that line in the script?
That's like Batman Returns or Batman Forever. Is it the car? Chicks dig the car.
Just like,
You
what?
serious?
Do you want me to take this character seriously or not? Can you please make a decision and run with it?
Yeah, and then you got Commissioner Gordon also just being like, Batman, if you don't get to that train, then all the neurotoxin's going to get into the water supply. You got that, audience? Everyone caught up on what's going on? Okay, now we'll continue with the movie. I know the plot. I'm in the audience. I'm sitting here watching the movie.
2 hours. No. We've been watching shit for 2 hours. You don't have to tell me what's going on.
Why are you explaining what just happened? I didn't need a mini recap. What is this? That like a clip episode they were doing sitcoms? You know, it says, remember when you were fighting the Nazgul or what the fuck his name was?
Ra's al Ghul.
Ra's al Ghul. Remember when you were doing that and they would reflect and they'd be like a flashback to the beginning. Remember he trained him? We brought him back. Ugh.
Just golly, that was, and that's all Nolan's dialogue. It's just
so bad.
It's all exposition. He does it. It's 100% exposition in a few witty one-liners.
And like no one talks like that. No one has communication like this. Everyone was like talking about the plot they were in. I was like, what is going on?
Like, these aren't humans. These are exposition dumps. Nolan, man. He's really good. Man, we talked about Zack Snyder. There's a thin line between Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder, but nobody realizes it. We're the only two humans on Earth who realize how close they are because they're both really good visual storytellers, but they don't understand human beings at all, whatsoever, how humans work, how humans interact with the world, and how humans are supposed to do things, at least not adults.
No, that's evident. It's evident in Chris Nolan's best movie, which is Dunkirk, where there is no dialogue or exposition, or it's all just sequences of events happening. Mm-hmm. It's like insanely brave and bold to give the audience nothing, and you're still hooked. It's genius. And it's like, because he didn't make anyone fucking talk. That was a smart move.
Because well, at least somebody told him, hey, man, don't just with the dialogue, I would minimize it, man, because you're not.
Yeah, it'll be seen as an artistic choice. Oh, yeah, right, okay.
Yeah. You're not that guy, pal. When it comes to dialogue, bro, I don't know. And I know he doesn't always write the dialogue, Dave S. Goyer, everyone, but like he approves it. He sees the script and says, you know what? Yeah. He hears a fucking actor say a bunch of exposition. He's like, yep, go to the next scene. He doesn't think, you know what? You two weren't really having a conversation. You just said exposition and you just said exposition. Let's try to actually add some dialogue like humans so we can have some humor interaction. Nah, that's not.
Yeah, those movies suck.
Yeah,
they're bad. I mean, I'm not saying don't enjoy them, but they're not as good as everyone remembers, and that's the thing. Like, but they're like perfect compared to everything that came after it.
Yeah. But shit, I kind of think that about a lot of Marvel movies too. That most of them aren't that good. That there's just
but
like there are some.
They're competent. For the most part, they follow an arc. They have a hero's journey. They tend to have a first, second, and third act.
Yeah, they
tend to make sense. They're very formulaic. It's basically like, the villain with the same powers and like they're in a weakened state. It's like, it's kind of the same story 100 different times. But, with the exception of like the Thor movies, like they're all pretty good as far as just movies are concerned.
They're solid. They are competent. You use the term competent, I can't really fault that. But they don't really like nothing. There are no stakes in Marvel movies whatsoever. There's a few. Again, the Infinity War being the glaring exception to this, because that's actually a good movie. But there's just like stuff just happens. Like you said, you have a lot of them are the same origin story over and over again.
Can you give an example of what you mean with no stakes? Because I don't know that I agree with you on that.
So when I say mostly no stakes, I mean like stakes have a tendency to be kind of revert. Like there was a thing where like whoever died would always just come back, right?
Oh,
no matter what.
Yes.
That happened so many times.
100%.
And a lot of the events of the movies, like what are the real? I guess no stakes aren't the right word. What's a better way of putting it? Because I was like, well, this is like they did what Marvel was really good at is having a through line story. So there are still elements that carry on to the next movie. So there are really stakes, but it just seems like there's just like a. I'll probably.
I know what you mean. I think it got like diluted. Like the investment becomes diluted, especially Phase 4. But it's in the beginning. Like if you think about the Marvel, like the beginning of it, when you had like Iron Man.
Yeah,
that's outstanding. That's a great movie. I mean,
the first Iron Man's good.
Fucking awesome. It's just a fun ride, and like there's things in it that don't make sense. It's like, why didn't what's his name? What was his name? The Civil War general sounding guy? The bad guy, Jebediah
Stone, I believe.
Yeah.
Obadiah Stone.
Obadiah, that was it.
Yeah.
Why didn't he just kill Tony when he had the chance? Like he made him weak and he's like, I'm sure he'll die. But that's just like a movie trope. They do that all the time. It's not great, but it's like, but there was sharp writing in that. Like when he's in Tony's suit thing and he's like, oh, how'd you take care of the frosting problem? And he goes, what? And then they fall down to earth. It was like, it was exactly what we were talking about, where the villain didn't have the time to work out all the kinks and it worked against him. And
that was cool.
That's great writing.
It's clever.
That's smart. It was very clever,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say they were all good. I mean, Iron Man. Which was the one where Iron Man? I think it was Iron Man 3, where he like announces where he lives and then like immediately gets the home blown up, and you're like,
stuff like that would happen. Another thing is, for the first half of the series, Tony kind of is the villain because so much of the shit that goes wrong is his fault.
Yeah, that's true. What's the Civil War? It's his fault. He makes Ultron.
Yeah, and another thing.
I'm thinking of Avengers 2. Whatever.
Avengers 2 is where he makes Ultron, but that leads into Civil War because of some of the crap that happens in Wachovia, if I remember correctly. And then there was just a lot of movies that just really didn't matter.
All right, so it starts off with Iron Man, then it's the Incredible Hulk, which people forget is part of the MCU, which I never saw any of those. I think they're pretty bad.
Yeah.
Iron Man 2 was pretty bad. That was the one where they crowded so many things in and they had the whip guy.
Yeah, Whiplash. That Iron Man 2 set was only to set up the Avengers. That's the only reason it existed.
Yeah, and it was lame. Then Thor, which I'm not really a fan of the Thor movies.
Like the first Thor. Yeah, I don't really like me neither. I mean either.
Captain America: The First Avenger has
underrated.
Its problems, but it is pretty goddamn good.
It's super underrated because not only is it a cool movie, it kind of exists in its own world, not just in Marvel movies, but in general, this retro futuristic world. What was that terrible movie that nobody saw? Like Sky Captain,
The World of Tomorrow?
Yeah, I feel like this is what they were trying to do. I think.
You know who loves that movie?
Who?
Gary, a Nerdrotic.
Really?
Yeah, he loves it.
Really?
Yeah, just one of those things he likes. I don't know.
How about that? But this just it had a real cool aesthetic to it. It was really cool to see Steve Rogers, his growth, he was the one guy willing to jump on a grenade, and it's like, okay, he's a good dude, and then he becomes this super powerful Captain America. And
how fucking hot was Agent What's Her Face?
Oh, fucking Agent, the British chick.
God damn,
she was bad.
Bad.
She was bad.
built too, like really thick and voluptuous. Whew, yeah, I was a fan.
Stacked. You see why he said he fucked off the whole Avengers for it? Like fuck.
Right. He's like, yo, you don't even understand, dude. Her pussy's like heroin.
So you guys don't have you aren't getting that 1940s pussy. Everything now is all blown out. Back in the day.
Pussy so then pussy. And then it goes right into the Avengers, and the Avengers is good.
Yeah, I like the Avengers.
Avengers is really good. I mean, I watched that
first
in the theater.
Avengers.
My old girlfriend, I had a blast. I mean, I was surprised how much I liked that. I pretty much went in there just to tease, just to make fun of it, and I really enjoying. Yeah, because I wasn't into this stuff at the time. Like I didn't really take it seriously. I was like, I've outgrown all this stuff. This isn't. I was a serious actor. You know what I mean? I didn't sully my hands with the filth of the peasants.
Yeah. Oof. You know, real quick before we go on, so that you're almost leading credence to the was it Scorsese who said this isn't really film, the Marvel movies. Did you have that belief? Because I think he's right, honestly.
Definitely, yeah. I never took these seriously, and I looked down on them, and I didn't understand everyone's fascination with them. But that was also the thing. I didn't really watch many of them either, you know. And I don't know. I was always trying to pursue this higher art like thing. You know, I got into like all these art films and Lars von Trier and stuff like that. And like, you know, but I was like a douchey kid. You know what I mean? I was in my 20s. You know, it's just you're kind of an asshole. You know, you just think you know all these things, and I just didn't. You know, but it was like the older I got, the less I was invested in movies that were like high stakes in the real world and like about. It was just like I actually no, I like watching these things to escape all of that. I actually really like. You know, like Tarantino movies, and I really like stylized and like the science fiction, all that escapism. And I realized like that was actually probably the most appealing part of film to me since I was a kid, and you know now. And I just think I was just going through a phase. I was just going through like an art phase.
Snow phase. Well, I think we all go through because Lord knows I went through a snow phase. Still probably going through it.
Then, then back to the MCU. Yeah. Unless you wanted to talk more about the Scorsese thing.
No. I do want to go to the MCU because I think now we're about to start getting the movies that I don't care about.
So this is phase 3 now. So Iron Man. Did we? Oh no, I'm sorry. Phase 2. Sorry, phase 2. Yep. So now it's Iron Man 3, which was bad. That's directed by Shane Black. No surprise there. And that's also Pepper Potts gets like. Magical fire powers that just go away. They just
perfect example of something. No stakes. What was the point? What is the point? If Iron Man 3 was never made, would any of the MCU have changed?
No. In fact, I think they pretty much pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah. So there's movies like that exist that's just like, I'm glad you guys, made more than you budgeted for, but like there was no purpose of me having saw this movie.
But that was the cool thing about the MCU was you didn't need to see them all to kind of appreciate the big tentpole ones, to like watch all the Avengers movies or Infinity War. Like those were still kick ass.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So if it's like one of them sucks in between, you're like, I mean, they can't all be hits.
Yeah, true. But I mean, to me, outside of those tentpole ones, and there's one series that everyone disagrees with me on. But to me, outside of tentpole ones and maybe one or two, so I mean, a lot of them are okay. A lot is, you know what it is. The MCU is completely mid at best. It's just like this is. I spent 2 hours. There was worse 2 hours. It's better than the shit we get now. Granted, but it's just like, like you said, the Thor movies aren't that great. I do like the Captain America series. That's a pretty good series.
Well, that's the other thing too. So it goes Iron Man 3 and then Thor: The Dark World, which I have no interest. I never saw. I don't care. Yeah. Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Really good. One of my favorite of the whole series.
Considered one of the best in the MCU.
Yeah, and I think for good reason.
Then you follow that up with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Now here we go.
You don't like Guardians?
I don't like Guardians.
I do.
And I think everyone loves Guardians. Everyone but me loves Guardians. I am the only person who doesn't like Guardians I've ever met.
But how many times have you seen it?
I think I only saw it once.
Because I didn't like it my first time either. And I think it was tainted by the hype.
Definitely tainted by the hype for me. You know how I am.
Everybody loved it. Yeah, everybody loved it. And I was just like, this is stupid. But I remember I was watching it with my roommate. And for some reason, like I just kept getting interrupted. and like was pausing it and then like going back to it. I watched it very chunkily and there was like gaps in between. So I think I didn't really, when I sat down and watched it the second time, I was like, oh, I was way off. This is good.
I need to sit down and watch it again. I cringed at a lot of it. Just oh my god, I rolled my eyes. It felt like and I don't know why I made this connection, but I guess it's just similar to like watching like a DreamWorks movie for some reason, or like the Minions or some shit, where it's like these are a bunch of things that are going to make normies think they're cute or like or interesting, but Groot. It's like this is Groot, the dancing, the dance offs. Rocket Raccoon, but he looks like a little toy, cute little raccoon, but he has a dirty mouth or whatever the fuck, or he's a hard ass. Like, okay, I get it. I get it. That's what I thought the whole movie. I get it. It's this trope. It is another trope. Oh,
that's how I felt about it too. But the weird thing about it is actually they all really do work. Like the music works really well. Like Chris Pratt as Star-Lord works really well. I also had this weird bias against Chris Pratt for a really long time. I think I told you about that.
So do a lot of people, right?
Well, yeah, but that wasn't political. It was just the first I'd ever heard of him was him taking a shirtless selfie, showing off his body. And I was like, oh, who is this dickhead? Like that was like the first I'd ever heard of him. And I didn't realize it was because he played Andy on Parks and Rec, and that now he's getting in shape for what's that movie, the Zero Dark 30. So it was actually like a big deal transformation for him. But I was just I was like, who the like what kind of a guy takes a flexy selfie?
Yeah.
I was like, wrote him off up until like I don't even know when I changed my opinion on that. I held that bias for a long time. So when that movie came out, I was like, oh, with this Dingleberry as the lead, I'm out. Like this is gonna suck. But it doesn't.
Yeah.
Then it was Avengers Age of Ultron, which I think is probably the weakest Avengers movie.
I would agree with that. Yeah. And real quick, on your Chris Pratt point, that also is like exemplifying a time and a place where gym selfies were looked down upon, because that is clearly not the time and place we are living in 2022.
No. I'm practically ready to start fucking taking gym selfies.
Oh, it's the most annoying. That's part of the reason I'm going to the gym. All right, Age of Ultron. You know what? I remember seeing it in theater, and it was like, I'm like, is this good? Because I don't think this is good. That's another one. It does have some stakes, but it really felt stakeless. It really felt like I just saw a movie because Marvel and Disney or whoever owned it at the time. I think by that time Disney had completely taken over. They put out a movie they wanted me to watch, and they wanted people to pay for it, and that's why I'm here in this theater. There was no real reason. There was nothing gained. It was just 2 hours of my life.
Yeah. It was just, it missed the mark. It could have been okay. It just missed the mark on a lot of things. Like the quippy robot was stupid. I mean, it was interesting. See, that's the thing about the MCU is that people kind of forget there actually were some interesting ideas, and that before they eliminated the consequences of people's actions, like that, the whole reason him and Hulk came up with Ultron was because of how bad things got with the Avengers, and they're like, listen, we can't ever let that happen again. Like, we might not be there to save the day. Like, we need to come up with some kind of a secondary plan, and then it just got out of hand. Which I was like, that's great. Like, that's like hubris, but like the road to hell paved with good intentions. Like, that's actually well written, well constructed. Anyway, it's just in execution, it's kind of boring and long and meandering, and just it's not. And isn't that the one where they like he wants to bring up the rock thing and then just drop it on the earth, and it's like, okay, he's a robot plugged into every single computer on the planet,
right? Like, what the fuck? Could you please use your power to destroy? Like, I thought he would use missiles or fuck with people's bank accounts and fuck with. No, you could
just wipe out every power grid.
Yeah.
Send everyone in the Dark Ages, watch them kill themselves. That would be just. But it's just. What was that? A big rock? Just
you know what? That was another thing. I felt like Disney's influence was coming through there, because most of the time they're beating up these mindless robots, and it's just there for the CG.
So lame.
I really felt that was another thing that bought, like, okay, Disney now is putting their little stamp on the MCU at this point, at least to me.
It's definitely softer, and Yeah, it just doesn't really work. And then the last one of Phase 2 was Ant-Man.
I mean, I remember one gag from it that was entertaining. It was a mildly entertaining hour and a half, 2 hours that I thought was slightly better than my low expectations. But another movie that if it was taken, I guess I think there's a small like conversation in either Infinity War or Endgame where some of his powers are relevant. I think it's relevant only because in the second Ant-Man is frozen in time or whatever the fuck it is for him to come back in the end game.
Yeah.
Outside of that, there's really no relevance. And I didn't see those movies so you know that.
They break their own world building. Like, they say that like the reason Ant-Man could shrink is because atoms are mostly empty space. Mm-hmm. So when you shrink, it's just we're closing the empty space. So you have the same mass as you're just small, and it's like, okay, fine, cool, that's the magic, great. Well, that doesn't stay consistent at all, because when he goes super big, well, then he still only has the mass of 180-pound guy or whatever. He wouldn't be like this hulking robot monster. He'd be flimsy and really weak,
Yeah, because he would be completely thinned out.
Yeah, and at one point, I think it's Ant-Man 1, where they drive a tank out of a building because what's his name has a tank keychain, and you're like, but then shouldn't that tank weigh incredibly heavy? 40 tons? Yeah, like what? That doesn't make any sense. And then like there's one point where he like runs down the barrel of a gun when he's small. I'm like, well, that would still be 180 pounds on that guy's hand. Like they didn't stay consistent with their world building at all. Like it's just not even a little. It's like you're kind of like, all right.
Yeah. And
I just wanted to. I gotta piss, but I kind of keep having this conversation, so I don't know if you want to edit this out or just vamp for a minute.
I'm gonna vamp, and maybe I'll end up editing. But yeah, that works.
I'll be right back.
Foulball has to take a piss break. I don't know if I'm gonna keep it going. I'm gonna keep it going, and so I can at least explain why I think the MCU is just mid. A lot of it at best. There are standout movies. We're kind of going through the MCU. It was kind of impromptu thing. Going through the MCU movies. We're on Ant-Man, and now we're on what I think is kind of the issue. And okay, there are people who like Guardians of the Galaxy. Fine. If you like those movies, cool. But at least you understand my point of a lot of the movies that make up the bulk of the MCU don't really matter or have one little sliver of point that matters in the mainline Avenger movies, which I consider the real MCU, so to speak, as far as the through line of the story. So you have Iron Man, Avengers 1, Avengers 2, Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, and Endgame. And those are the core movies that you need to see in the MCU. The ancillary movies, to me, you can miss. And hey, you're back. And I was just kind of rambling on my core issues of saying there's the core movies that you can watch as we go through it that you do need to watch, and the ancillary movies you can kind of miss. And that's really what my core issue with the MCU is. And actually, another thing I thought of is your girl, your lovely Brie Larson.
We didn't we can. Why don't we go through it? We're gonna get there.
No, but there was a point. No. It's not about her in particular. Oh, okay. The big issue with that movie, once we get there, we'll talk more about it, was how it was marketed, right?
Huge. And it also sucks.
Yeah, that's obviously it. But you had to watch it to understand what was going on in between these movies, and of course you didn't. And it got a lot of criticism, rightfully so, for that. But honestly, as we go through this, I feel like that could apply. There was a soft implication, even though you didn't need to watch all the Marvel movies. I do think that the soft implication that there was something to them, that if you did watch one of them, or some of these ancillary movies that are not in the main Avengers timeline or main Avengers movies, that you were going to get input. So even though that was heavily marketed as a part of Captain Marvel's marketing, I feel like that was always a soft implication for all these extra movies.
I mean, they want you to go see them, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, Who's gonna do that? Like, who's under that big of a spell of Hollywood? Be like, oh, I have to go see it, otherwise I won't know. It's like, or you could just not see it, dude. I mean, we had the internet during this time, so anything you needed, you didn't get, you wouldn't have missed. You could have just checked it out. It's not that big of a deal.
But I mean, these movies made obviously biggest franchise in movie history, and so the part of that was because of that, and it was just like. I feel like the other movies don't really get that as much criticism for it, and it kind of should. The whole series kind of should. It was always just this.
All right, Mr. Cynicism.
Yeah.
All right, so then the next one is Captain America. This is the beginning of Phase 3 now.
Okay.
So now we have Civil War, and Civil War once again is pretty fucking good.
Civil War, I'm pretty mixed on this thing. It's one of the visually the coolest movies I've ever seen. There's no doubt about that. With the action scenes, and you know what? They do always have these cool writing moments, right? Where very interesting and complex sort of things get at least mentioned. One of my biggest issues with that is it felt like there was no real heroes at the end. But actually, Black Panther, he's better in this movie than he is in his own movie, as we'll get to. And he has this growth of not, he finally catches Baron Zemo at the end, even though Tony and Captain America are going at it, and instead of just killing him for revenge, he's like, "No, I'm going to take him in. I'm not going to just continue vengeance endlessly." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a nice little heroic moment of a guy, instead of being a vigilante, no pun intended, being a hero." That was cool.
Present vigilantes excluded, of course.
Yeah, obviously.
Well, yeah, and it did like a really cool thing where it built on the last movie really well, or the last Avengers movie, by basically the implications of what happened with Sokovia. They're kind of like, yeah, we can't really let these gods just sort of run around unchecked. No. We do need some sort of oversight. And Captain America's like, that's definitely not happening because I'm based as fuck. Taxation is theft, Captain America. He's like, nah, son, I'm going to go do my own thing. Which I thought was
you're
cool.
The government. You're not necessarily the best arbiters of power yourselves. It makes sense, and that's a great.
And it split the Avengers, and it's like it makes sense. Like it makes sense that they would be split over something that dramatic. It wasn't something petty or stupid. Like we don't like Scarlet Witch's new costume, or what's her name? I'm confusing. Black Widow.
Black Widow. Yeah.
Black Widow needs more cleavage. It's like Vought. They're like they need more. Black Widow's gotta be hotter. Look, we have ScarJo for a reason. We need those cans up front, baby. Come on, Avengers need PR.
Yeah, that was not the reason. But no, yeah, you're right. It was a core logical reason that you could understand. You can understand both sides. You can understand why they thought what they thought and why it came down to what it came down to.
Yeah, it brought Spider-Man in.
Yeah.
That was cool and unexpected. Cool. No one thought Spider-Man was going to be there, although he does squint his mask. I know, but I mean, like, that was still a big deal.
It was a massive deal.
Yeah.
Because it all happened so fast and was like you said, it wasn't expected when the movie. I feel like they did it late in the movie's development cycle. And it was just, it happened so fast and it was holy crap, there's Spider-Man now in the Marvel universe.
It was huge. And it was because the property was owned by Sony. So it's like, oh, we're never going to see Spider-Man in an Avengers movie. It's like, nah, son, here he is. So that was cool. I mean, I just think overall the movie's good. The next one is Doctor Strange.
Another one.
See, now, when I watched it, I was like, that was really good. But then I watched like the Mahler's review and Critical Drinkers review. I'm like, oh, I guess it was stupid.
No, if you liked it, don't let them or me deter you. When I saw it, there was another one. I'm like, man, I guess outside of him existing so he could be in the Avengers movies, I mean, what do you need this for? I mean, obviously not right now. Doctor Strange is a more important character because of the aforementioned Spider-Man, No Way Home, and his last multiverse movie. So now he's a little bit more prominent. So I guess you do need this movie to introduce him. Outside of introducing him, there's nothing really. I honestly don't even remember it. Yeah. I don't remember. I remember. Only thing I remember is having a lot of like weird Inception, crazy, DMT effects. I remember the special effects looking very psychedelic. Outside, I don't remember much.
I like the backstory. I like the idea that he was like this arrogant guy, you know what I mean? And then like he had to get humble and then went through like, and there was like a training thing, you know, with all these like Doctor Strange people.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember at the time thinking it was cool. And then like all the reviews, I'm like, oh, I must have missed a lot because those are really valid criticisms that I don't recall. I was like, oh, that is stupid. Oh God, that doesn't make any sense.
Oh,
like,
you want to talk about stupid? House learns magic in Marvel. That's Doctor Strange.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. And then the next one's Guardians 2, which I think Guardians 2 is stupid.
Okay. Well, I like I said, I didn't like Guardians 1. I didn't even watch Guardians 2. So
I was out in Guardians 2 when Ego, his father, who, you know, birthed him, basically for no reason, just casually mentions that he killed his mother. And then and then it just moves on with the conversation, and then you just watch like Star-Lord be like, "What?" It's like, yeah, why would he be happy that you like? He's not gonna be like, "Oh well, you had to do what you had to do, Dad. You just had to kill my mom." Like it's been like the thing that's been hanging over me my entire journey, and I'll just be like, "Well, I mean, you know, sometimes planets got to kill mothers." Like, there's no way. It was just he just so casually drops it in the conversation. I was like, "All right, this is dumb," and so like the rest of the movie, it's. There's things that go on in that movie. I'm like, that's not good. Like, Yondu, is that his name? Yondu, the guy with the mohawky thing. But you know what I'm talking about. He's on his ship, right, with all these dudes, and then they betray him, and then he murders all of them in like this cutesy scene where his like little arrow thing is. I'm like, this isn't adorable. Like this is mass murder. He's killing everyone that he was just calling crewmates like yesterday. And then he becomes like a good guy. He has like a good guy arc in the movie. I'm like, this is really weird.
You know what? That was not that moment because again, didn't see it, but I thought the Guardians was so tonally inconsistent, so I'm not surprised. That's one of James Gunn's issue. He wants everything to be a fun, cute ride, no matter how much violence it is going on. And cognitive dissonance comes on. I think he's trying to do a Tarantino-esque thing with that because it's not the only movie or only time he does that. I'm thinking of the Harley Quinn scene.
Not a bad, like a cartoony version of that.
Yeah,
Oh God, that Harley Quinn. Oh God, that was so stupid.
This is the one in the second Suicide Squad where she just. Yeah. It actually was visually cool as shit, but again, if it was like, what tone is this? Is this supposed to be funny? What is the...
Yeah, that movie is inconsistent. It's got its moments.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is Spiderman Homecoming, which was fine, but I didn't love it. But mostly because Spider-Man doesn't kick or punch anyone. He's using web powers the whole time, and it's like
Spider-Boy.
Well, that's not what Spider-Man does. Spider-Man kicks the shit out of people. He's like an acrobat. Like that's like his thing. Like I remember all those web kicks and stuff. It's just he just doesn't do any of that. I was like, this is kind of corny. But it did do some good things where like the Falcon or whatever the guy's name was. That's his name, right?
The Vulture.
Vulture. Where he's like harvesting all those weapons that came from the Avengers thing, which I was like, okay, that's clever. Good tie-in.
Yeah.
But ultimately,
I didn't. This two Spider-Man. That's why I didn't see No Way Home, which I know I'm the only person who didn't. But I'm not a fan of these two Spider-Man movies, and this is again the core of what my argument is. They're the mainline movies. You need to see those. Everything else, you kind of don't. Not that there aren't still fun moments amongst those, if you find them fun. It's just a lot of filler. It's just a lot of mid filler.
Yeah, obviously. The next one's Ragnarok, and I thought Ragnarok was a lot of fun. I really like Ragnarok.
I didn't see it because, again, I didn't like I saw the first two Thor movies. I saw Dark World. We didn't talk much about it because there's nothing to talk about. It was a fever dream of nothing. But I was like, I don't want to see another Thor movie. But everyone seems to like Ragnarok. Everyone says it's a lot of fun, which I'm not sure if I like it because it feels like it feels like it has the same vibe as Guardians to me in a way, where it's just, this is just so fun.
From a historical lens, it actually is weaker because it does a few things where it starts to make Thor really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it starts to make him dumb. And also there was one thing where I was like, he's got this shock collar and they keep shocking him. And it's like, that's how they incapacitate him. I'm like, he's the Lord of Thunder. he commands lightning. I think you could have come up with a better mechanic than that.
Yeah.
And then also this is when the first time you see Tessa Thompson. And this is when they start doing the super badass girl thing, and all the guys are dumb, and like she's like drunk and cool, but like also like an effortless badass, It's kind of like, it's like it didn't bother me at the time, but now looking back on it with the lens of what it's become, you're like, oh, this is like the kernel. This was like the seed.
The start of the MCU, basically, is Ragnarok. It's funny because Love and Thunder obviously continued it on, but yeah, I didn't see Ragnarok. The Thor series is another series. It's like,
yeah. Well, then we've got Black Panther.
You know what? I know it's not just because we're both vigilantes of color, but I actually enjoyed Black Panther, and I didn't enjoy it on first watch. That's the movie. I've said this many times on the channel. The best analogy I can bring up is if you saw the Boondocks episode where Barack Obama gets elected and everybody's decided except Huey Freeman. I'm Huey Freeman when I first saw Black Panther. I'm like, CG is terrible. I didn't even pick up on the fact that the women did everything. I didn't even pick up on that yet.
It was heavy-handed too, right?
Oh,
it's just
boy.
somehow it slipped by.
You know what? There's still things that bother me. He fucking loses clean to Killmonger. I thought Killmonger was going to cheat and beat him. No, he just beats his ass. He wins. He should be rightfully the king. This is your king.
And I also saw I saw criticism. I was like, oh yeah, like how does this government work? Like, if you can challenge him at any time, well, why wouldn't you just wait till he's really tired from a fight and then challenge him right then? And he has to fight you. He's powerless. And then you beat him. Or it's just like, how could a diplomat rule a country if whenever someone feels like it, they can just challenge him to a fight? Shouldn't it be like a ritual? Like every 4 years there can be challengers or something? Like how could there be no structure to this whatsoever?
1 month out the year, like, okay, you get your challenges in now and that's it for the year. Some shit.
Yeah. And also, this is the most advanced civilization on Earth, yet the way they elect their president is Mortal Kombat. It's like, look, man, I think Brock Lesnar's a badass. I don't know if I want him with his finger on the nuclear button, nuclear missile, man. But
hey, we might get Rock as a fucking candidate next few years. Who knows?
I'm saying, like, if our country was run like that, then it would just be UFC fighters who ran everything, and those guys take a lot of blows to the head. I don't know if I want them in charge of our foreign policy.
I'm cool with President Deontay Wilder.
Oh my God, I am not.
President Deontay Wilder.
Also, outsiders can do it too. Oh, I guess he was technically Wakandan.
No, he was. Yeah, he was. Yeah, that was the whole gimmick.
It just doesn't seem like a very stable form of government. Certainly not a peaceful transference of power, has seemed to work in the Western world. But
I still liked it, man. I still just thought it was like, because of the context I've already presented, where I'm like, you know what, these movies, and I was already at that point, starting from Age of Ultron, I was already starting to gather like these movies don't all matter. And so, like I said, first viewing Huey Freeman, oh my God, I'm seeing all the flaws. Most of them, I didn't see all of them. I also saw the perspective like, okay, I get it. You're trying to, Killmonger is supposed to be right. I get it. That you're framing it. He has this, there's this speech towards the end where he's talking about all the injustice and that Wakanda has been out of it. But Killmonger's plan is to just give random brothers fucking high-tech Wakandan weaponry. And I'm like,
brilliant. That'll work.
Bro, that's not a plan. That's not going to work.
There's a lot of Africans with some pretty powerful weapons. It doesn't seem like it's the key to stability. Nearest I could tell, dude.
It's not like
mad dudes running around with AKs and RPGs. It just seems to create more war, bro. I don't know. I don't know if we start giving them fucking tanks and shit too.
But these Wakanda high tech, this is worse than RPGs and shit. This is like superpower, next level weaponry with no plans, no government, no organization. Just hand them all weapons. Everything's gonna work out. And when he's giving his spiel on why Wakanda's wrong, T'Challa doesn't answer back like, hey, bro, what about black on black violence? Aren't you about to make that way worse with your plan? Anything about that? Like, that was the most obvious rebuttal, and he just stares at her. I'm like, what the fuck? Say something. Really? Like, are you crazy? This is the dumbest idea I ever heard.
And it's also like, he said it like, I guess he'd never considered it, but I thought like Wakanda's entire, like they had a reason why they were doing this. They weren't like, oh shit, man, we never thought about that. Damn.
Yeah.
Brothers dropping knowledge. Like, it's just like, they must have a reason why. Why wouldn't you just like explain what that reason is? Like, it was so just like, it also still kind of like a social justice-y message too, you know?
Very
it's
much
like,
so.
I don't know. I don't know what the point of this one was, but I've only seen it once, and I did enjoy it when I watched it. I had fun with it. I turned my brain off for the most part. I thought it was pretty cool.
Exactly.
But then I watched all the critiques, and I'm like, ooh, God, that's a good point. Oh, that's a great point. Ooh, wow, I guess this movie sucks. Like, I just, like, there's way too many accurate criticisms that I just didn't process when I watched it. But it's like, yep. Those are all really, really good criticisms, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think of it as a fun popcorn movie. Like you said, you turn your head off. It's fine. It's a cool little world. There's some cool little moments. There's a cool little casino scene.
And then there's the smartest girl in the world who looks like she's about 19. Runs all the medical tech, and like and also completely insults and denigrates the king. It's like,
yeah. Well, I mean, little black emasculation. You never heard just jab, just constantly, because that's really what the movie is about. When you really think about it, it's just a guy. It is about the plight of a black man. I just realized it. It's just like everybody is beating him down. His dad kind of lied to him. His mom and his sister all kind of beat him down, all do everything for him. Some random cousin he doesn't know about just comes and beats the shit out of him immediately. Like, he's just having a fucked up life, and everyone's keeping him down, and he's just trying to, you know.
Well, Wakanda is a pretty magical place, though, because he falls like off that cliff into the river and then goes up into the mountains.
I don't know how that works either.
Fuck? I was like, wow, that's a great point. I didn't even. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
It just goes up. Don't you know water flows vertically against gravity?
Up mountains. It's like, okay. Yeah. So, but I mean, I don't even know if I'd be able to be impartial going back to if I rewatched it, just because of how much criticism of it I've digested, and how much of it I'm like, yeah, I mean, Critical Drinker's video alone is just like a scathing indictment, and it's like, oh wow, yeah, that's all pretty stupid. Yeah, you're right.
There's a lot of issues with that. But again, I feel like it was par for the course more than people gave it credit for, because the whole MCU is a bunch of, you know, skippable movie with fun moments. That's really what most of it is to me.
Says you. Next is the best one that they ever made, which is Infinity War.
Okay, I think we can all agree what this movie does do is kind of negates part of my point, because it does kind of it is the thing that makes stakes actually matter. The only thing in this entire thing, to me, I guess Endgame as a companion does as well, but it means like everything is building up to this. Everything has been building up to this. It's the culmination of the however many years you had already been watching MCU movies, because every character appears pretty much, while it tells this great origin story of this complicated villain in Thanos. It's really his movie.
Yeah.
Even though one of my
the plotting of that movie is nothing less than spectacular.
Yeah.
It establishes really bleak. You kill Loki in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Then, you know, and then like all these people are dead. Then the guy goes right to the planet. Hulk gets on the because the other guy dies. The Idris Elba's character, he gets killed.
Yeah.
And he does the frostbite or whatever that thing's called, like the Rainbow Road. Yeah. And then he sends Hulk to Earth, and Thanos is coming. And then they're like talking about it for about 5 minutes, and then Thanos comes, or one of his minions, and the movie just moves so swiftly and somehow manages to keep every character in balance, somehow manages to give them all their moments. You have like the great reveal with Cap with his beard, and he's like, you know, back, and then like it's just so many good moments, and it somehow manages different areas and all comes together for that ending that just like, even when you know it's coming, watching Thanos win is just wow.
And my biggest criticism is when I saw that ending, I thought, oh, they'll just immediately reverse it and there'll be no stakes. Even though fucking Phase 4 is trash, there have been stakes for that snap. There have been absolutely lasting, impactful stakes because you have the 5-year gap and you have the people who were gone for those 5 years and now they're trying to reacclimate with society. So that snap mattered. That they could never really quite erase all the pieces of that L. And man, that movie really does like. Thanos has got to be one of the top few movie villains of all time based upon that movie, right? Especially if you talk about modern villains, surely, right? Like,
he's one of the best written villains I've seen in a really long time. Because like that was something that I remember. Where I've been I guess I'm just always permanently playing Fallout New Vegas at some point in my life. But that's one of those things. Like when you play that game, that is so compelling about it is like you're like, okay, Caesar's Legion, they're the bad guys. Like they're this evil slavers, and every time you meet them, they're just, they're always like, they're just awful. And then when you hear like Caesar, when you meet Caesar and he gives you like his points, you're like, are you making sense right now? Oh shit. Like now I have to like think about this. Like, oh God, are they right? Who's right here? And it makes you really think about it. And it's like, you hear like Thanos, it's like, he's wrong, but his arguments are compelling. It's like, look what happened to my planet. Like, I don't want to see that happen to the rest of the universe. Like, I'm doing something about this. And he believed in his cause very authentically to the point where he'd kill his own daughter to see it through. Like, it was fucking remarkable, man. It was like, for a comic book movie, like, this writing is spectacular.
Yeah, it's like, I'm trying to think of a good comp, but it's almost like a Moby Dick-esque, what was it? Ahab and Moby Dick-esque obsession with completing the goal, with what he views as basically saving all of existence from itself.
That's a great point.
And it was a great character study of Thanos or whatever, and it was cool.
And it was the movie that brought me back into it, like for real. Yeah, because I dabbled with it at the beginning, and then I went out for a while, and then I would check in every once in a while, but didn't really ever give a shit. When I saw that movie, I remember I saw it on the plane too. I saw it on a little screen, and I was fucking hooked. I was like, oh wow, like that brought me back. I started watching all the ones that I'd missed. I watched all the movies in between. Like I went full in on Marvel after that because I was like, that was such a good movie. Like I was floored. And every time I've watched it many times since, at least 5 or 6. Because I remember it was on Netflix for a while, and I would just watch it, and I would just put it on and be like, I'm just gonna put this, and I would just see the whole movie through because it was so good.
Yeah, it is really good. It's really good. It's the to me, the pinnacle of everything Marvel's ever done. I don't think they'll ever top it. I would be shocked for them to ever top it. For everything, I really like Winter Soldier. I really like the first Iron Man, even the first Avengers. But as far as negating what Martin Scorsese said, this is a film. This was a big budget film, a action film or whatever. But it was a 3 hours, it culminated a lot of plot lines that had come before. It introduced, even though Thanos had existed in the universe, it really introduced his backstory and gave you his motivations. And you saw, like you said, you can understand his points, and he's not a one-note villain, evil, destroy the world because destroy. It's like, no, I have a reason for this, and he really is passionate about this. And he wins at the end, and there's stakes from that, and there's things that impact to this day in the MCU from it. It is by far and away, almost inarguably, the best movie Marvel has made.
I was just thinking, because the other great thing about it is there's no Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
that blight had not been introduced yet, so it was like the last like pure, like Marvel film. But then I was just thinking, like, do you remember when they did introduce Captain Marvel? I think it was maybe, probably when they brought her in Endgame. There was like the little teaser trailer where like Thor pulls his hammer like, and it goes like right by her face or whatever, and she like says something quippy. But then fans made one. The hammer comes and knocks her on the back of the head.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
That was fucking great. That was
Yeah.
very funny. But yeah, I mean, then after that, it's pretty much all downhill. So the next one is Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Never saw it. I actually, man, I'm trying to think. Did I even know this existed?
It's definitely the beginning
have.
of the MCU. I didn't hate it when I watched it.
Okay.
But, you know, once again, the reviews kind of like have ended up swaying my opinion on it. But I remember when I watched it, I was like, that was fun. I was like, it was stupid, but it was fun. You know, I didn't have any problem with it. And then after that is Endgame, which I didn't really dig Endgame.
I didn't like Endgame either. If you look at which is I do Endgame and Infinity War as the companion season finale or series finale, really, of the MCU. It's okay, I guess.
It's fine.
It's fine to just end the story, but I mean, I really didn't like it. Even though
either. I didn't like the time travel.
No, the time travel is never a good thing, especially to introduce in the last movie. Essentially, it's like, okay, now time travel exists, and now we're back into new stakes matter, new things matter.
And then they did this little tour from past movies, which I did not need. Like
the clip show.
The clip show, I was like, no, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And then the mistakes that people made were stupid. It was like, what's the blue-headed girl who's not Gamora, like Gamora's sister or whatever?
Yeah, the little robot type.
And then like
whatever.
Thanos picks up on like her.
There was no explanation to why that works.
It was just dumb. And
yeah, and then this may be weird for me to think this way, or maybe it's not. But I'm like, well, this Thanos is not the same Thanos they have history with now, so it's not the same. I get it. It's just the same character, and I'm just supposed to go into it. But it's like, it's really not, because he's at a different point in his journey than he was when he met them, and they don't have any prior history. It just...
It's something that really bothered me was when Gamora comes back to life, and the first thing she does is kick Star-Lord in the balls. I was like, that is not fucking funny. Like, I don't find that's not funny. Like, that's emasculating, and it's also like he thought she was dead forever, and then she comes back and kicks him in the balls, and you're like, ha. It's like, that's not ha.
Yeah,
there's nothing funny about that.
That goes another thing too. Just the inconsistent total viewing of Guardians of the Galaxy in the universe. It's like, I get it. This is supposed to be fun and ha, but his emotions surely were real, and he basically
really blew the plan. Yeah,
he fucked up everything, which pissed me off. But he did fuck up everything because he was so emotional for it. He was so in mourning of her, and just kicking the balls. It's like, well, were there stakes? Were there total emotional stakes for what he experienced, or not? Or is we're just always supposed to laugh with his Guardians and it's all funny?
No, I didn't care for that at all. The ending I didn't like, and then they made Anthony Mackie as Captain America. And I remember this is going to play into some of the conspiracy stuff a little bit, some of the things that we don't really talk about here. But, the Captain America shield, when Anthony Mackie was holding it, that 5-pointed star was decidedly pointing down. And I remember that. And it took up like the whole screen. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's some messaging there.
That was... If you want to get into the conspiracy theories on Endgame, what year did this release? 2019? Interesting year to be released. The last year of theaters, and then the next year is 2020. Huh. You released a movie called Endgame.
In late, about a year before the world ends.
Yeah, and one of the big features of this movie is this, massive, half the population doesn't exist anymore, and there's this massive displacement. It's pretty crazy. But to get off the conspiracy theory train for a little bit, usually that's the train I ride on, right? That 5-year jump. So what are your thoughts on the 5-year jump? Because I'm mixed on it.
Didn't like
it. I didn't like it either. but it does provide stakes. Like if they had just reversed everything, let's say they win and everything just gets reversed and they go back to square one, but they just win instead of Thanos making the snap. He just does it. They win. Ha ha! Hooray! The day is saved. Then that means there was no stakes from Infinity War. That means it just didn't really matter. They just revert. They lose, but then they reverse the loss, so it's not really a loss.
I mean, that's a good point, because, but it's just so incomprehensible that you would snap out half the people of the planet and then they would just come back 5 years later. It's just like that's almost more of a tragedy. It's like everyone's moved on, and now we have to deal with it again. It's almost like I don't know. Like I also didn't like the pacing of that film as much. Like it seemed like it really took its time to get going.
Yeah, it almost takes its time and then rushes.
Yeah, and I don't know. I didn't really care for Endgame, especially because when I was going into it, I was so pumped. Like me and my friend went and got brunch before we went and saw it, and we were blasting the Avengers theme in the car on the way to the theater. Like we were full on nerding out. And
super hyped for it, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember just being like, oh, okay, I don't like that. And I'm like, man, they're really taking their time to get this plot started, and just kind of like, oh, I really would like this to get going. And it's like, oh, time travel, and I guess what else can you do? And I just, and the big battle at the end, and then you had all those girls on the fucking...
Yeah. Girls get it done. Don't be a bigot.
That was the stupidest thing ever. And just the idea also that Pepper Potts and Tony Stark, first of all, that Pepper Potts is there at all, which is, what are you doing? Yeah. When did you get combat training? Why would you be there? Why would it? It's so stupid. But the idea that Pepper Potts and Tony Stark would be there. Hey, what if you both die? Then your child grows up without either parent. Are you seriously? Yeah. Are your maternal instincts that weak that you need to like, yes, queen? You don't even have your helmet on. You've got your flowing hair. I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah,
what is
that's
this?
Another MCU issue. Everyone with their mask off, which you'll never get on this channel. Yeah. Endgame was a mess. To me, it's the beginning of the MCU. It's the beginning of the end. It's the end of the MCU. It was the sign off for me.
Truly Endgame. Yes.
And honestly, you talk about your
appropriate title.
Yeah. Where you were going into it, I was in the opposite because I'd already kind of got black pilled on the MCU, and so I actually didn't watch it in theaters. I watched it on Tortuga. Just some random day I had taken off because I had tried to interview for a programming job that I didn't get. But I took it off just to interview, and then I had nothing to do all day. So I'm like, you know what? I'll watch Endgame, and I didn't really like it.
Oh yeah, I think I saw it like opening week.
Yeah,
I was pumped. I was really pumped. Yeah, and it was like, I remember like walking out being like, I don't think that was very good. Like I was just kind of like, man, I didn't really love that. And then everyone was like, "Oh, dude, I mean, all right." It's kind of. I felt like the way Force Awakens was, just not as severely, but I was just in an ocean of people like coming all over the place, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, guys, I don't feel the same way. Like, I guess that's your problem. It's just like
you just don't like stuff, man. You just don't like to have fun, man.
I don't. Okay, it wasn't all that great, but whatever you say.
Ebert.
Yeah, then after that, well, we also forgot to mention it was Ant-Man and the Wasp and then Captain Marvel.
Oh, how can we forget?
We skipped right over.
Fan favorite of sorry, I got bit. Fan favorite of the Culture Crime Fighters, Laura Brie Larson herself, Captain Marvel. She actually came up last week with Gabe because we talked about Sam Jackson losing his eye to a cat.
I've never seen that. I never wanted to. I never would. I never cared.
Yeah.
Even if there was something in there I had to see. I mean, what would it be? Like, who cares?
There was no value in that. That was such a cheap way of marketing. Who knows if it really made the $1 billion it supposedly made? Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. Maybe they fudged the numbers a little bit. But from what I can tell, what I can gather, this movie was pure MCU now. Now we are pure in it only exists maybe I'm exaggerating. I didn't see it, so I'm speaking on something I didn't see. Full disclosure for that, but it seemed to only exist to emasculate men. I saw the little scene of her breaking the one guy's arm and stealing his bike, and Nick Fury loses his eye. He gets bossed around the whole movie, and the man bad, women good, and that's the theme. Captain Marvel.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah, it's just one of those movies. Like I don't need to see it, and then the last one in that technically that phase was the Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man Goes to Europe.
Yeah, which is not the
Euro
title,
trip.
but that is what it is. Spider-Man Goes to Europe. Like just like there's Ernest movies now. Some Ernest is more entertaining. I didn't like the two Spider-Man movies. I like this one less than the other one. I thought at least the other one had Michael Keaton as the Vulture, as you call him, the Birdman. But it was
he had a grill. He was a Birdman.
Yeah, I knew we were going to reference Birdman from Cash Money for some reason. But no, it was to me it was worse. It was even worse than the other one. I didn't care. I remember there was Mysterio, and he acted like he came through from the snap, and he would. I didn't care about any of it, and somehow MJ already know who's not Mary Jane. Remember, MJ already knew he was Spider-Man. I really dislike this Spider-Man's cast of characters. I really dislike him and MJ and his little fat friend.
Is that supposed to be like a female agency thing? Because I just realized the same plot was true in that show Invincible. Remember where Amber just knew that he was invincible? Somehow. They never established how. And I don't think they do it in this movie either. Is that supposed to be some feminist thing where it's like women would be so smart they wouldn't be fooled or some shit?
No, black women just have the superpower to read people's mind. This is what they're implying. I don't know what the hell it is. I think maybe you're probably on to something. That was a terrible joke.
I think there's something there, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, that would be some... Because
her feminine intuition, she would just know.
A bunch of idiot girls in a writer's room like, oh, my God, if my man was the... I'd fucking know. Of course I would know. I would know. You know what I mean? Like, there's a bunch of Yas Queens agreeing with each other. I feel like that may be where that came out of, because that's in both of those, and it's delivered the exact same way with no spin. They both just knew, and you're like, how? Why? What? And it makes the hero look stupid, and that's like...
So it makes them look stupid. Well, if you knew, why didn't you act like you knew? You know what I mean? Why didn't you operate?
Smarter. I was playing 4D chess, whatever that is.
Like, hey, if you would have operated like you knew, things would have ran smoother, but whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, another filler Frisbee movie in the MCU. But he's Spider-Man, Spider-Boy. At least there's no Iron Man being his Batman. He can try to be his own hero. Still not quite there.
I straight up didn't care, though.
Yeah,
I straight up didn't care. And now we don't need to really go over this, but I will just list off the four from the movies that are from Phase 4, and it's just like you're like, oh. Black Widow.
Didn't see.
Yeah, I didn't see any of these, but just
I saw one of these. Remember the
Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home, which apparently is like the only good one. Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness, Thor: Love and Thunder, and then the Black Panther sequel, which looks horrifically woke.
Yeah.
And like that, all the movies we just went through, all the discussion we just had, the ups, the downs, like where they did right, and then you read those movies, and it's like there's not one in there. Maybe Spider-Man No Way Home, which I didn't see.
I didn't either.
Could even come close to compelling the interest or the conversation we just had. They're all jokes, all of them.
Yeah, and that's you left out the series too, which would have been what was the Scarlet Witch one, which I thought was going to be good, but it wasn't. WandaVision and Captain America and the Winter Soldier and Loki, Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
and Hawkeye and
Moon Knight,
and Miss Marvel is technically a part of this, and so is She-Hulk.
Yeah.
How the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the MCU was slightly overrated the whole time, but you do see that, I would take that overrated MCU over anything that we're going to get and have gotten in the past few years. in a heartbeat.
What a joke all of this stuff is. Like I've been compelled to see precisely 0 of these. Maybe the Spider-Man movie.
Yeah,
Which maybe if I'm home one day and it pops up on Netflix and I'm in a particular mood, I might click on it. That's about it.
That's probably where I am too. I didn't really have the energy to see it. I'm like, you know what? You know, because they had already released a lot of these Phase 3 movies. I did go see Shang-Chi because it's like, you know, we also have to context everything around the pandemic. It's like, hey, you can go to movies. There's a reason. There's a movie to go to. Go see it, sort of thing. I saw Mortal Kombat for the same reason. Hey, just getting out of my fucking cave that I'm calling an apartment. Let me go see Shang-Chi.
Well, Mortal Kombat though had such a good trailer. We were kind of tricked by that one.
We were so tricked. Everyone was, man, because there was a lot of people who were, you know, cause the movie was pretty successful the first weekend or so.
But that sucked too. Remember? God, that was so bad.
What a disaster! What is it? What a missed.
It's so stupid. I don't even remember how stupid it. I was just like, yeah. It was like they didn't even have They didn't even have Mortal Kombat. They didn't even have
the fucking Mortal Kombat tournament. No.
They just had like a fight. It was like, oh, and the acting and so much was just so bad. It was such a missed opportunity. The only cool thing was that one sequence that they showed in the trailer. That was it.
Yeah, that was such a wasted opportunity.
That was such a letdown.
Yeah, and all jokes aside, it made me appreciate Gina Carano's acting. It made me realize, you know what? She may not be an Oscar winner. Huh?
Could be worse.
It could be a lot worse. Oh my God. No lie. Not having seen your work since, I'm not saying this because I've been your partner in culture crime fighting for, you know, a year and a half. You could have read for that movie and got a part. I think you were good enough to at least get a part on that movie because there wasn't a lot of. Remember Sonya Blade being weird. Just remember everyone just acting like.
I don't even remember. I can't even. Honestly, it's like snippets. There's just like light flashes in my brain about that movie. But I honestly can't really piece it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucked. And I remember I was pumped for that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I was pumped. Like that looked cool. And I think we both just came on. I don't know if it was the Cocktail Lounge or this show, just sort of baffled.
Yeah, it was the Cocktail Lounge because it was that Friday, and I remember coming right in from watching it, and it was like, "What was that? That was not what I expected at all." It was
didn't Tom try to defend it?
He did try. Yeah, he tried to defend it, which I understood what his point was. Like, hey, man, if you really apples to apples it to the original movies, it is kind of technically better. Which it may be. And I'm sure the acting in those original movies wasn't good, but it was like 90s acting. Just kind of forgive it because you of the age you were when you saw it, sort of thing. So it doesn't quite.
Still disagree with him on that point. I like the original Mortal Kombat movie. It might be a guilty pleasure, but I liked it.
Yeah, I do too.
Still do.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, that's the MCU, folks.
Yeah, I was not expecting. I got to clip that out. I got to make sure that's his own thing, the kind of timeline of the MCU, how the mighty have fallen. Because we started off talking about the DCEU. And yeah, I think comic book movies are going to be, maybe this is the moment when they fall off. Because I don't, where are the good ones to push it forward? There are certainly going to be money-making events, but we're talking about culture, you know what I mean? We're talking about pushing something forward, and even if I didn't like every MCU movie, there were a lot of people that did. A lot of people disagree with me on Guardians. People will fight me to the death on how they feel about Guardians and talk about how much fun it was. And the MCU existed as a place where a lot of fun movies were made and a lot of movies that people enjoy were made. So now that that's done, and the DCEU is just fumble fucking away through life as usual, it has shown no signs of life going forward. Is this the moment where comic book movies just end and this is it? Because it seems like it is.
I don't know that it's going to be ending, but it might just be culturally irrelevant. Like, I don't think they could possibly abandon them because they've just been printing, you know, like countries' economies worth of money from like these movies. You know what I mean? Like how many billion-dollar movies are in the MCU we're just talking about, and it doesn't look like they're slowing down. I mean, Netflix just pushed out that Sandman show.
Mm-hmm. Which I don't know, talking about for years, basically.
Yeah,
I didn't know that came out.
Yeah, it just came out. It seems to no fanfare. Like I heard Gary said he didn't like it. I started watching it, and it wasn't. I didn't have a strong opinion. I just wasn't compelled, and it was getting late, and I felt no impulse to put it back on.
Yeah,
it's like I guess I'm kind of like outside curious, but like I said, I was watching for a few dollars more last night, and I was like, this is spectacular. This is so entertaining. Like, why am I gonna subject myself to something new that has a strong chance of sucking, when this is definitely good. Like there's only so much time I put away to watch content. So
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't, and it's, I don't know. I like talking about stuff on streams. I don't know how much energy I want to put into like a review of something that's like new to like be in the conversation. Like I don't really care.
Yeah, I get that. But yeah, I do think the cultural moment for superhero movies has passed. I think there's still money to be made there, and I don't think they're going to be done completely. I mean, shit, they even before the MCU and before the recent, everything's a superhero movie, everything's a comic book. They existed as early as 1976. As earlier than that, the fucking serials, the Batman and Superman serials from the 40s and 50s. So this is always going to be a part of the Hollywood paradigm, but I think their moment, it's not over, but the beginning of the end has started. It's ending. And so there's still going to be some big movies to be made where a lot of money is going to be made, but I don't think it's going to be the most popular form of movie.
Yeah, I think we're
the next
definitely
5-10 years.
Yeah, and I think we're definitely out. Like we're most likely not going to see anything resembling the Infinity War Endgame thing for well over a decade. I just don't think the fan interest is there. I don't think the vision's there. I think it's all too polluted, so polluted that I don't think it's going to be. I just don't see it happening. I don't see them even being competent enough. Maybe if like whoever the new DC guy is at Warner Brothers, but that's going to take a tremendous amount of work, and you're also just going to have to throttle like so many activists that are in their positions just to do the quota bullshit. And also like I don't even know if these companies have the liberty to make stuff that isn't woke, because like I was talking about on Friday with Ruben, like Amazon released their charter, I guess last year or something like that, and they have literal percentages of marginalized groups that have to be in everything. They have a percentage, like they have like a slide rule, like a mathematics that has to be. So how free is Warner Brothers themselves to make something that's actually good, like authentic to the characters and not woke, and I mean, who knows?
ESG is a real thing. I mean, where I work, there's actually certain little things where you see other companies that are associated with it. There's a tab that says diversity. It's a part of the
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. It's a part of the corporate speech. ESG is a real thing. It's already here. There are already companies being judged for the ESG score and trying to have the highest ESG score, which if you don't know, which a lot of people don't, that's fine. Environmental social governance is what ESG is. So basically a way of like what you just said about Amazon, having these different percentages and different quotas that have to be met as far as diversity and as far as societal and social governance, basically socialism. Or cultural
it's essentially
socialism.
A rating system to how woke your company is.
Yes, basically.
That's not even an exaggeration. Like they'll cover it up by like say environmental responsibility and this, that, and the other, but it's really not what it's about. It's about the agenda, and it's a numerical rating system. It's like China's social credit score, just for lending institutions that control all the money.
Yeah, and we've
85% of all investor money.
Yeah, it's a scary thing. But I also think they want to return. So I think if things constantly flop, they're just not going to get made. I mean, I still, because there is a little bit of even though there's an ESG, I think there's a pushback towards just like, I don't know if it's woke stuff. in general, but just like, okay, we have to make money. The Top Guns, the things
Top
like that, we
Gun,
have to make money.
Terminalist.
Yeah, Terminalist, we have to make money. But I do want to say one thing before wrapping up, because hey, a 2-hour episode, which I'm sure that we didn't expect. We do need to give everyone involved with the MCU a lot of credit for having put forth what they put forth in the first place. Because never before had there been a movie series to do what they did, to basically create almost a TV series, like with all these different movies that were in the same universe, and tie them up into the Infinity War Endgame ending, and have that, all those different moments have so much weight because of all the different movies that existed, and having all those characters already established because of all those movies. It was kind of, a once in a generation, once in a lifetime sort of thing, and we have to appreciate that we even got it.
It's entirely unprecedented, and we may never see anything like it again. And
Yeah.
it was fun. You know what I mean? That's the thing about it. At the end of the day, they were fun, and
Yes.
you can see in the beginning they weren't woke, wasn't a thing yet. Like, I mean, the women, like the female characters, who the agency, whatever, but it was all like the casting was authentic. Like Chris Hemsworth looks like Thor.
Yeah, he does.
Chris Evans is a great Captain America. Like, it's like all these things that they chose like the way they made Iron Man like the most popular hero in the entire like also, if you can just think about, like, the Avengers are definitely a B-level comic book series. They were not
Yeah.
Spider-Man. They weren't X-Men. It wasn't the biggest one. It was just like if you're a comic book fan, you know about it, but it's not like, it wasn't huge, like I knew who Iron Man was, but like I don't think I'd ever read an Iron Man comic book. But for them to take the relatively obscure, property and make it the absolute monster that it became, it's a hell of an accomplishment. And you know what? They were entertaining as fuck. So it's like, it's like there's plenty of things you can poke holes and lots of stupid shit. But we walk through those first 3 phases. There's a lot of good movies in there, and that's
a lot of fun.
That's something to be said for that.
Yeah. There's a lot of good moments, a lot of fun moments. Even the stuff that was kind of mid, which I do think most of it was mid when you think of most of the movies, but there's still like the mainline movies, like the Captain America series, and man, we're never going to get that again. Like you said, it's unprecedented to have a series do all the stuff that it did, and it'll, depending on how this ESG and this wokeness turns out long term, it may exist as like the end of that, like the last of the Mohicans, so to speak, as far as good movie series or good entertainment properties.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we'll leave you with that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this longer episode. Please press like, subscribe to Vig if you have not. Share it with your friends and your pals. Let other people know. Shout it from rooftops. Whatever you got to do to help us get the word out, we appreciate it.
Yes, we do. So yeah, if you like the video, please like the video. If you're so obliged to share and subscribe, not just to me, but my man Matt from Foulball Productions, both of his channels in the description. Please subscribe. And even if you did none of these things, thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. Good night and God bless. I will talk to all you guys later. Peace.
Bye.